but we were chilling for a while.
Yeah,
I wasn't setting up the whole time.
Did the podcast before the podcast.
I know the precast.
Yeah.
Rafi, what's up, dude?
What's up?
Hey, we're officially here. Rafi Silver. For anyone listening, actor, friend, mindfulness meditation coach. Would you go by coach, teacher?
I would say instructor.
Instructor.
But yes, I'm a teacher too. I
Okay.
guess.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah,
if
coach,
you want to tell everyone,
maybe coach, maybe
give
coach.
people, yeah, coach.
I don't know.
Give people a little bit of a debrief on like who you are, what you do, and then we'll just chat. And that's basically what it is.
Let's see. What should I start with so my wife doesn't yell at me? I'm a husband,
Heck
father, father of two, dog owner, Saint Bernard. I'm a mindfulness meditation instructor. I teach mindfulness meditation at Columbia University in the MFA acting program. I work as a mindfulness meditation coach, performance coach, I guess, with athletes. Some of them are in college, Division I. Some of them are high school. Some of them are CrossFit Games athletes who, are doing that thing. I work with business executives, former and current, and actors in mindfulness meditation. I come from the Tibetan tradition is where I was trained. So everything that I teach meditation wise and mindfulness wise has that kind of lens to it. I'm also an actor, and
Heck yeah.
yeah, that's where I started. I guess I've been acting for 20 years. On and off with graduate school in between. But yeah, it's been 20 years in the business.
Dang. Heck of a damn business, ain't it?
Yes, for sure.
Yeah. It's so I obviously asked you to come on because, well, we're both actors and we both work in this industry, which is probably what we'll talk about for like half of it. But more importantly and specifically to me is the meditation and mindfulness work that you do. Specifically for actors at Columbia, I'm so fascinated by. I think it's one of the coolest courses that I've heard about. I mean, I wish there was a program like that in my acting program at Pace, which, if anyone from Pace is listening, amazing program, the FTVC program.
No shot on Pace here.
Yeah, no flack on Pace, but it's just such a vital skill set to have in this industry. I think it's a gift that you're giving to these kids coming out into such an unstable, scary, uncertain environment where they're asked and told that they're going to be paid to be vulnerable, and then they come out and realize that they're not going to be paid till they're vulnerable. And if they're vulnerable, it doesn't even guarantee that they're going to be able to get paid.
Totally.
So it's necessary, especially with the amount of rampant rejection that comes with this career choice. I think it's amazing. But before we get into all of that, you started so you started acting first, and then when did you get into meditation and all that jazz?
I'm trying to remember like the real origin about meditation. I think I can pinpoint it to, this isn't a direct line to meditation.
Turn your mic just a little bit, like move it the other way and then toward you, just so it's not covering your mouth.
Okay. I might have pressed a button as well.
That's okay.
Okay. I think I can pinpoint it to like specifically mindfulness of something, because was in undergrad, I went to Syracuse University, and there was an opportunity to be introduced to the Alexander technique, which, for those unfamiliar, it's really mind-body awareness, thinking directionally. It's something that's offered a lot in acting schools. I don't know if it's offered athletics or things like that, or although it probably should be. But the concept behind Alexander technique is that you can think directionally as opposed to putting your body in good posture. You could actually use the power of thought and attention to be able to relax your body enough into a certain posture. And Alexander's whole thing, because he was an actor in Australia, was he was noticing that he was losing his voice. And so he would study himself acting in the mirror and notice, like, when he went to go speak, he would shift his posture. So instead of manipulating his body, he thought, well, what if I can just directionally think so I can stay present in what I'm speaking? And so there was like a relaxation into correct posture, I guess you can say. And through that curiosity, he was able to see, yeah, I can do that. And then if you see Alexander's book, it's like a person, I think it might be him, holding a baby in his hand. And the baby's just standing on his hand in perfect posture. And he says, oh, we're born with perfect mobility, perfect functionality of our body. And then through like the wear and tear of life, sitting on the couch in a slumped way, or sitting at your desk working, or you name it, maybe stressors or something. Yeah, sitting on your phone, something. And we're unaware of what our attention is on, specifically of our body. Then it creates these unintentional habits that put our body in positions that are not efficient and not useful. I drank the Kool-Aid. I experienced an Alexander lesson at Syracuse and was like, this is the shit right here. Like, what's this? Nobody massaged me. And I feel like I just went through a massage. This is unbelievable. Like the power of thought and then an instructor guiding through gentle touch, basically telling your body, like, maybe think directionally this way. And it was so powerful for me. So when I went to study Shakespeare at the Globe Theater as like a study abroad program that Syracuse had for a semester, I had the opportunity to take an elective, and I asked to take an Alexander lesson. And I happened to have a teacher that was part of the Alexander Technique Society, which I then learned is like in England, in London,
where you were when
where
you
I
learned
was,
about it.
and
That's
she
cool.
was like a big deal there. And they hired her from there, and she was working with me and thought I had a lot of potential in it. And I thought, maybe this is what I'm going to do with my life. I'll become an Alexander teacher. I was like, this is really special stuff, and I want to give back to other people. I was curious about it. She brought me over to the house, the society, and Alexander's protege, Walter, who is one of the world's famous Alexander teachers, gave me a lesson that day. And, you know, for all you Alexander Technique teachers out there, you're probably pretty jealous that Walter gave you a lesson. But it was really special for me to like have a master like that, you know, do transmission almost in a way.
1 degree separation from the
And
source.
I know that this is kind of like a backward way of answering your question, but I think that was my first taste of mindfulness, because now I realize like mindfulness of the body is exactly what that is. It's having the intention to put my attention and it's really gentle attention on just a very specific thing. And you're able to, through loosening, not adding, not like getting stronger, but letting go of the tension, be able to have more freedom.
Yeah.
And I was always interested in that. And then I kind of hit a crossroads at the end of Syracuse where they're like, you want to be an Alexander Technique teacher? It's 3 years of just practicing that. It's like, I just went to undergrad to study to be an actor. And I was very limited in my thought. And I was like, I can't do both. There's no way I can do both. I got to go out there and book my first job and start making money.
If I don't start now, then
like I just felt this self-perceived pressure to go hit the ground running and do it the way I thought I was supposed to do it. And I really just like pushed that curiosity down. And it wasn't until in the middle of graduate school, when I think it was in my second year at NYU, when my teacher, Scott Miller, was like, he handed me a book called Buddhism Plain and Simple. I can't remember who wrote it, but whoever wrote that book, it was transformative for me. But I read it, and I read it through the context of acting and character and human expression. And I was like, oh, there's a lot of parallels here. I wasn't like, oh, I'm going to go be a Buddhist or anything like that at the time. But I was like, oh, awareness is a really interesting thing. Is this what we mean by being in the moment? And I started to kind of go from there and started listening to Dan Harris and read his book, 10% Happier, which then led me down the rabbit hole of who's Joseph Goldstein. And I saw, oh, the Insight Meditation Society. And that's where I did my first retreat and read Thich Nhat Hanh's book, Sharon Salzberg, and then eventually led to Pema Chodron. And then through my friends and other thing, I ended up in the Tibetan tradition and took refuge there. And, you know, the rest is kind of history. So it happened organically.
How old were you when you were in that stage of like going from book to book and sort of thought leader to thought leader down into Tibetan Buddhist tradition?
I was, let me see, it was right after I had my first kid. So I was in my early 30s or late 20s. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. So it's been a minute, but it kind of happened later in your youth.
Right.
That kind of started.
So at 20 or 21, that's when I was first exposed to the Alexander technique.
Yeah.
And then it was tabled for almost 10 years.
Because you had to go work.
Yeah, because I had to go be a human and make money and, you know, care.
And you were acting just purely just like working on acting at that
Yeah,
point.
I was going, you know, audition to audition. I was grinding the New York theater scene, doing everything that I possibly could to try and magnetize film and TV auditions, but they were not coming my way. I was just only doing theater, and all I wanted to do was be in a movie, and that's what excited me. But I was doing theater, and I was having, you know, relative success in theater, which it feels like that doesn't exist in a weird way, because what's special about the theater, but what's also tough in the business, is that you could do a wonderful piece of work, and if people don't see it, it's like it doesn't exist.
Yeah, and only so many people can see it.
Right.
You know?
It's like if a tree falls in the woods and no one is there to hear it, does it actually fall? That's kind of the way your career feels when you're going play to play.
Yeah.
Like you could get a review, but it's unless it's filmed, and people don't really want to watch a filmed version of a play, or maybe they do now, but at the time they certainly didn't, unless they're going to Lincoln Center and watching all the old plays, which I would do. Then you do it. You think it's a big opportunity for you. And even if it is off Broadway or it gets a good review in the Times, it's really only the people that see it. And if there's someone in the audience that is happening to work on something else that you're right for, then you kind of were in the right place, right time.
Yeah.
Which happened to me after my first job. I was doing this play off Broadway called Masked, and this playwright, Sinan Unel, was in the audience, and he was making a new play that he was putting at the Huntington and in Boston, and he wanted me to do it. So it was like, oh, this is the way it goes. But then it stopped there. Stopped right there. But I happened to be in that play, Cry of the Reed, that we did at the Huntington, was starring this wonderful actress, Chidem Onat, who happened to also be the first year scene study teacher at NYU grad. And we were neighbors in our apartments, and she would be like, you should go to graduate school. I'm like, why? I'm a professional actor. What are you talking about? I don't need grad school. And she's like, no, I think you would do well there. And she was right. I'm very grateful for her for telling 24-year-old me that it would have been good for me to like
the learning wasn't
retreat
done yet.
In a way.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting that you say retreat too, because I feel like the impulse for every artist, especially now in today's like fast social media self-marketing world, you dip out for a year and you feel like everything you did up to that point no longer exists. It's a clean slate once you come back out. No one knows who you are again, and you have to start from scratch. And I mean, I certainly felt that way when I was younger, and it's just so obvious that when you're 22 years old, you don't realize how much time you actually have to develop as a person, because you've only been developing consciously, or is with self-awareness as a person since you were like maybe 17 if you're lucky. But until then, you're kind of just unconsciously becoming a person that your environment makes you, and then you don't realize who you are till you're maybe 20, 21, 22, you're like, wait, I think I don't like some aspects about who I've been for my entire life. Maybe I can have a choice of how I want to be.
I feel like people can go their entire life not realizing that.
Oh, yeah.
And then they're in their 70s or 80s and they get a diagnosis that is terminal, and then they take a look in the mirror and they're like, oh, this is who I am. Which, we can go deep into the Buddhist Dharma, but that's impermanence. That's what it is. It's, as young people, we through probability, we're like, oh, we have more time. We have more time. But we're not guaranteed anything. Everything changes and everything is impermanent. And that truth will hit you in the face at some point, whether it's, illness or a parent dying, or, in subtle ways, like your car gets a flat tire and you weren't expecting it. It's constantly, our denial of impermanence is constantly there and hitting us in the face. Our awareness, it's a matter of whether we notice it or not. And these big life events, absolutely, they really don't let you turn away from it at all. And I think that is like the tragedy, but also the excitement of being a young person, is that you're like, oh, I'll do it tomorrow.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll do it in 10 years. And you're like, well, who told you that you have that? And, for some people, all the way up until the moment they pass, they're thinking about tomorrow. They're thinking about the bill they have to pay in a week, or the taxes they have to file. I know, just between like that analogy, my father passed suddenly and he was filing his taxes the next day. So sometimes I play this like thought experiment and try and put myself in his shoes empathetically and think, was he thinking about his potential refund? And then all of a sudden passes away. And you're like, well, that refund never came. Or let me move this deduction around and do all that. And yet we have this relationship with the fact that we do need to plan. And we do need to pay our bills that are in the future. We do need to set balls in play with the idea that probably I'm going to have tomorrow. Probably the ground won't fall out from under my feet. But yet, it could.
Yeah.
And so to have that juxtaposition constantly being reminded for you isn't necessarily a bad thing. is a wonderful thing if you can embrace it.
Yeah.
It's really like impermanence is your best friend when you're depressed, because you know your life will change,
Yeah.
and even that will change.
Do you feel like, as an actor specifically, or just someone who works in the arts in general, with the sort of instability that comes with that choice, that this mindset is particularly beneficial for people who live in sort of a gig to gig, paycheck to paycheck, project to project lifestyle, that because you kind of have to live that way financially, you're sort of forced to value the experience of the thing more, because you know that there might not be another one for some time after it's over.
Well, it's certainly more obvious in that scenario.
Yeah.
But I know, and I know tons of people, and I certainly was one of them, that still found a way to deny it and not value it
Yeah.
and fight it or attempt to fight it. So for people who have a quote unquote stable job, yes, it's easier to fall into that trap of thinking like you have a tomorrow or a next paycheck. And for an artist who really just doesn't know, it's more information, it's more skillful, because you are noticing that you didn't have control anyway. But we find ways as human beings, especially this is the tortured artist, that you still have some sort of expectation that it's gonna work out. And you're like, even like I said about the play, it's like, oh, it worked that first time. This is just the way it's gonna be. It's just the ball's just gonna keep afloat, right? The balloon's just gonna keep popping up. And then it just, nope. It's something happens where, and so we're, as artists, we're given more opportunity to recognize that and find ways to have a relationship with that. But that's why it's necessary to understand it and practice that, because you really do have 2 points of view. Either deny it or embrace it. And if you don't even notice that it even is a possibility to embrace it, you feel a victim of circumstance. You're like, well, why is this happening to me? It seems like it's so easy for her or him.
Yeah.
Why is it? What am I doing wrong? And you're like, well, you're not doing anything wrong, and they're not doing anything right. It's just your relationship with what's arising in your experience, you know?
Yeah. Well, because I feel like I always, and I imagine it's the same for you and for probably just about anyone, but anytime I stagnate in my conscious effort to sort of not just be present, but to be gratefully aware of my circumstances today, I immediately fall back into this sort of stasis of well, like tomorrow I'll be better. I'm too tired today, or it's raining, or I'm stressed out from this other thing, or I didn't get good sleep, or I'll go to the gym tomorrow. I'll start that project tomorrow. I'll make that phone call to my grandmother tomorrow, or whatever little thing it is, and you kind of feel this constant push of I can just leave it for a little bit. And then you justify that so often with this sort of, it's almost like it's biological, this sense of relief of canceling plans or pushing something off or postponing an obligation or whatever it is. You get this immediate dopamine rush of like, nothing I need to do, and then you wake up from that a couple hours later, a day later, a week later, 10 years later, whatever it is, and you realize like, wait, I'm in no different position than I was when I decided to stop.
Yeah, it's because no action was created.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately what it is. But there was an action that was created, and it was the action of disengagement. And that's where the dopamine comes from, is the idea that you felt empowered. to say, I'm not going to do something. And it's not that the plate is cleaned, because the plate is never cleaned. You have an experience. If you are given the opportunity to have another breath, you are here, and there's a lot of information here. I'll give you an example. Like on these long meditation retreats, I had this one. The first few that I don't meditate now with my eyes closed through the Tibetan tradition, but when I first started doing the insight stuff and the Thai forest tradition, you meditate with your eyes closed. And I was on retreat at Spirit Rock, and I was, it's long practice hours. I mean, it's like 30-minute sits, 45-minute sits, a lot of walking meditation. You're doing a lot of meditating, and your body is just sitting there. I would have some times where my eyes would be closed and I'd be sitting in a chair, like, not even in a situation where like my back was compromised in any way. I'd just be sitting in a chair, eyes closed. And sometimes I would have these thoughts being like, man, this is so tough. I just want this to be over. And because you're on retreat and there's nothing else to do, like it's not like, oh, I could go, watch a movie or turn on some music.
Yeah. Or even scroll on a thing on
like your options are walk out of the room silently and go sit in a chair over there. And so then the thought comes up, well, what's the actual difference between sitting in the chair here and sitting in the chair outside this building? The difference is my eyes are open and I've just decided I'm not meditating anymore. But what's the difference? The difference is I've made the decision I'm not doing that thing that was difficult for me. But yet there's actually nothing that's different. Like mindfulness and meditation in general is just paying attention to what is. So then all of a sudden you open your eyes and you go down that rabbit hole of what do I got to do today? What's for dinner? What's this? What's that? That's what you're meditating on. You're mindfully aware of a thought about the future or a fantasy about the past. And that's what you're attaching your thought to. And that feels very comfortable for us. But that's what's happening. It's the same thing.
You're still is what you're saying is
we're
still
always
aware.
meditating. We are always mindfully putting our attention on something. The difference between calling it mindfulness and not is the intentional awareness of it. Right? I am intentionally putting my attention here. And that's what I'm going to attempt to do right now. And then when my mind wanders from that intention, and I recognize that it naturally has, which it will. Oh, wow. I can go back and have the intention to put my attention here. We can do that at any time, at all times in our life. And it does then give you that agency where you're like, oh, I'm making the choice to attach to this idea that I have a tomorrow.
Yeah.
I am intentionally choosing to deny impermanence or the natural order of things. I am intentionally choosing to disengage. And that's not a good or bad thing. It's just the choice that I'm making through my habit of mind, what feels comfortable. And there's kind of like, if you look at it as a scientist or just somebody who likes to collect data, it's interesting. Like if you have that curious mind, you're like, oh, that's really interesting that's my go-to. I wonder where that comes from. I wonder what kind of behavior it is. Like going back to the Alexander technique, it's just thinking about it curiously. And then all of a sudden you start to open up space. You're not adding anything. You're purging this confusion, this fog. You're clearing the fog in a way.
It's funny you say that because I studied Alexander technique in school as well. Not nearly as in depth as it sounds like you did. But the thing that I took from it, aside from just my sort of physical awareness of my body and the physical habits that I have when I'm walking around, and I realized that, oh, the way that I've been holding my backpack for the last 10 years of school has forced my body into a position where I'm constantly uncomfortable being on two legs and I'm always leaning on one, whatever. This sort of intentional choice to like shift my own weight for comfort that I used to do unintentionally, but specifically this practice of inhibition that we started doing for scene work, which was always like, all right, when you are in a scene, you know, because as an actor, your kind of constant project is learning how to allow emotionality to come out spontaneously and be present in that. But before you can do that, you need to learn how to inhibit it and then make a conscious choice. Because in real life, you're constantly just responding to external stimuli. And sometimes you get wildly enraged by something that happens and you don't know why up here, but your body just, it responds to this thing. Or you get so sad from something that happens, or you laugh out loud at this joke and you don't even know why you thought it was funny, but it clearly was to your body. But once you can feel this thing well in your body and make a conscious inhibition choice before you let it out, then you start to learn what it is that's making those spontaneous sort of impulses happen in you, and then you can learn how to direct them intentionally within scene work or within a character or whatever. So we were always practicing this sort of feeling of, all right, take whatever feeling that you're having as you're saying this line, and before you respond to your scene partner's line, make this mental inhibition note where whatever comes up, stop it, go back to neutral, and then choose to let it out as opposed to just letting it out. And I found it so valuable, less so in acting because it was kind of the opposite of what I wanted it to be, but in my real life.
Well, what you just described, you know, one of my teachers, George Mumford, who wrote the Mindful Athlete book, he has this wonderful course, and I took it online. Like in his book, he uses the phrase, what we do with mindfulness is we're able to build a space between stimulus and response. Yeah. Which is it's a great digestible ROI of what is mindfulness.
Yeah,
right?
That was a one sentence of my 12.
Right. No, but that's exactly what you're describing is like, there's a stimulus, and if I'm able to have space, just that little space there, then my response can be what I choose. And the word that I like to use is, then it can be a skillful choice.
Yeah.
Right? You can skillfully move forward. And the hard thing is with all this is like, that makes sense intellectually. But with my students, my clients, everybody I work with, and myself, it's like, well, what is the skillful action moving forward? And it shouldn't be manipulated. It should be true. It should be real. Should be authentic. It should come from source or something, because that's what we are as humans. And as actors, what we're doing is being human. We're shedding, and the more we can shed so the character can come through, the more the audience feels like they're not being told how to feel or think. They're experiencing in humanity. And there's a moment that's really occurring with real living beings believing imaginary circumstances, which is literally what we're doing, as I just explained to you about impermanence.
Yeah. In real life, at all times.
In real life, we are believing imaginary circumstances, that this floor is not going to fall out from under my feet.
Yeah.
That this body that is named Rafi is stable and solid.
Yeah.
And when we notice that that's not true, there really isn't an intersection between acting and life. All the world's a stage. It quite literally is. Like, that poetry that Shakespeare wrote is true. It's actually true that there really is no difference between what we do on stage or on film or on set and what we're doing right now. The circumstances are our characters, which we call me, my I, and I've labeled it Rafi, believes my given circumstances. They feel very real.
Yeah.
And I can think back on those memories, but those memories are gone. They don't exist. And if I think back on them now, it's a now moment of fantasizing. That's actually what I'm mindful of, is a fantasy of what seems like the past, but the past is different. If we were in the same situation and had a memory, had a memory of a shared experience that we had, you would think about it in very different technicolor than me.
Yeah.
You would see it from a different point of view.
Yeah.
It would be a different soundtrack.
Well, I'm seeing, we're sitting in the same room right now having the same conversation, and we're both looking at it from a completely different perspective.
Correct.
I don't know I'm not focused on what's behind me right now. You
No.
won't remember what's over there, and
No.
I'm not going to, well, it's my apartment, so I'll remember what's over there, but
yeah, but those,
know.
you won't. You won't remember what's there right now because you don't see it.
yeah.
But that's the actual truth.
Yeah.
You can fill in the gaps, which is the mystery about being human, is that you could tell me almost vividly what it is, but you're not actually experiencing it right now.
Well, it's even when you mentioned the past, and like, I don't know who said this first, but I've heard it countless times. This idea that when you remember, say for example, you remember your favorite Christmas that you had, or Hanukkah that you had, or whatever you celebrate, your favorite birthday from your childhood, you think you're remembering that day, but you're not. You're remembering the last narrative you created when you last remembered that thing. And so the reality of every moment that we experience gets further and farther away from truth the longer we live away from it. Because I don't, I try to remember some experience from my past that I think about occasionally. I'm really only thinking about the last time I thought about it. My memory is constantly changing a bit.
But the interesting thing about that is, if we take that a step further, whatever emotions arise from that in this current state are not because of that memory and what occurred for you then. It's what's happening now.
Yeah.
That's a current emotion from that thought exercise, which is a fantasy. It's a mindfulness, intention on the attention of a fantasy that resembles what we call the past. Right? And like, I saw this really cool interview with a Buddhist monk who's like, time is a relatively new thing.
Huh.
Because we, as humans, we decided, we have a clock and we can tell you what time it is right now.
You have a Roman calendar.
Right. All this stuff. But like, imagine for a second, like, not knowing what numbers are, not knowing what time is. You don't know what day or night is. You just experience an arising occurrence that shifts. You don't know what days are. You don't know what months are. You don't know any of these things. We've labeled these things time. We've labeled them days. We've measured them. And we're holding on to these concepts so strong, which is another version of human beings attempting to control impermanence. It's another way of us denying change to give us some sort of agency in this moment. And it fascinated me. And it continues to fascinate me, just philosophically, but also poetically. Like, I was always attracted to Shakespeare because I felt like Shakespeare's poetry really just has the characters examining the mind constantly and the way we think and the suffer. He says it in the Hamlet is my favorite play. It's like the suffering comes from the mind. The slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, no, I don't know. Or is it up here?
If you were to adopt what you're saying and practice it on a daily basis, as you do, there's such a fine line between using this idea of trying to inhibit your denial of impermanence and trying to acknowledge this present moment, all the things that you're saying. There's this fine line between empowering yourself with this idea that there's no time and all that, and victimizing yourself and imprisoning yourself in that idea. Because what does it all matter if my memories aren't real? What does it all matter if tomorrow isn't certain? What does it all matter if my own mind is not even actually showing me the truth about what's around me? It's all an illusion, this and that. And how do you take this philosophy, or call it a philosophy, this observation, and then use it as a tool for yourself rather than as a justification for your own stagnancy?
I love that question, and it was one that I hit a crossroads with at one point. Because it's like, okay, if you are listening to this or you go down that path and you believe that philosophy, right? That's true. What I'm experiencing, you kind of hit a crossroads. And what are the two paths there? One is nihilism in a way, which is like, well, if everything's an illusion, then fuck it.
Yeah.
Let me just like throw this cup at your face and blow up the world and just do whatever the fuck I want. You only live YOLO, right? But that just doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel right in my heart. It doesn't feel purposeful. It doesn't feel easy. It feels wrong. And I can't explain why. And I never was able to explain why. It just didn't feel right. So what's the other choice? Well, what does feel right? Love, kindness, togetherness, community, connection. And it starts to create this open space, which is like, oh, maybe that's the purpose. Maybe that's the purpose of recognizing all of this. That's the other choice. If it doesn't mean anything, well, it must mean something.
Yeah.
So is it possible to have your understanding? And this is why I started leaning and being attracted to the Tibetan culture when I was exposed to it. Because in the sadhana, the book I read, the prayers I read, it says it right there. Like, it says, may I attain enlightenment, ... for the benefit of all beings. And just that line in of itself, like, was like reading Shakespeare. It felt so true to me, which is like, may I pursue something incredible, absolute bliss, for a purpose that has nothing to do with me.
Yeah.
It includes me, but it's not just me. And when I started to examine that, I would go, that's actually acting. That's what we've always been told in school. Play an intention, make it about your partner, do this, affect change over there, affect change over there. Get out of your head. All these things started resonating with me. It's like, oh yeah, that's what we do when we're in our head. We are self-serving. We are feeling feelings for me. I'm feeling sad and I want to show you I'm sad. You're not part of this conversation. I'm not on intention. I'm not out there trying to affect you. I have no purpose in this. That's nihilism. It's all just me, me, me. Me, my, I. But that's also another version of denying that there is no me, my, I. There's just the we. And just like Alexander holding the baby, you're born pure. That's what he was trying to show with the body. It's like you're born with pureness to you.
Yeah, and then you slowly
start to create these quote unquote solid walls around you that it's me, Mickey, it's me, Rafi. And then I started thinking about that in acting terms, and I was like, wow, what a great prescription for an actor. Think about, okay, may I achieve whatever for my partner? Just like take it out of the sadhana and put it in acting terms. Let me fix your problem. Yeah. Let me change you. Let me take your problem, hold it myself, and fix it. And what's the purpose of that? The purpose of that is because we all want to feel loved and seen. So how do I do that? How do I make you feel seen? I see you, right? It's like I saw Avatar, and it like always makes me burst into tears because James Cameron, right? Like that's the thing that they say to each other. They like look at each other deep in the eyes and they're like, I see you. And like, that's it. That's all people want, is to be seen. They want to be understood. They want to be felt. They want at all costs to like hide and yet have you see me. I'm going to do everything I can to not let you see me. But then when you do, I feel really good about it.
Yeah.
Right? It's like we play hard to get as human beings.
Oh, yeah, relentlessly.
But yet we have this innate ability to be able to see each other and see who we really are and see our intentions and see that we all just want some sort of love. We want to be held by our moms as babies, and we want to be, see me, see me, see me. I need something. I need something. And all beings are like that.
Yeah.
And if you just really just break it down to that and you make it about your partner, which is, I want to see you and I'll do whatever I can to do that, then you're not faking it. You're just in the confines of the imaginary circumstances that the playwright or screenwriter or novelist or whomever has given for you.
Which are no different,
right,
as you said.
You're just like, hey, you just don't have a left arm.
Yeah.
But see them.
Yeah.
You know, like you have to wear these clothes and you have this stutter. Yeah. Like you were born this way. Okay, all right. Well, what is that? How does that affect how I see you and make you feel seen and also want to be seen?
Yeah.
And that's it. And even if you play a villain or you play a hero, it doesn't matter. That's how you go about it through those circumstances, which could come from trauma or it could come from, you know, your environment or whatever.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of back to what you were saying about sort of the sadness driving you towards nihilism and this idea of like, oh, well, because none of these things matter, then I'm going to act a certain way and I'm going to try and like wall myself from this reality that I've discovered. I'm going to protect myself by no longer engaging in the world the way that I want. You know, I've always believed that, like, you know, the opposite of depression is not happiness. The opposite of depression is vitality. You know, depression, it comes from and then breeds stagnancy. And the only way to combat it is movement. If you go out and do a thing, no matter how sad you are and self-loathing you are, if you go and do a thing to affect some minimal positive change on someone, no matter how you feel about yourself, you can't help but acknowledge that you affected positive change on that person.
Right.
And suddenly you chip away at this little thing bit by bit.
Yeah.
You know, because good and bad action, from a character's perspective, in some fictitious constraint that you have on a set, affecting positive change or negative change, solving someone's problem or creating a problem for someone, they're all neutral. The good and bad comes from the circumstances in the script and from how it's going to go and how they're going to respond to it. But when you affect change, you're really just affecting a neutral change in someone else. You're casting a pebble into the lake, and the ripples might be good, they might be bad. But if you want to not cast pebbles, time for them to eat.
Up food.
It's going to go off like one or two more times. But if you refuse to cast pebbles because you're afraid to engage, then suddenly you're out of the play, you know? And
ultimately what you just described is my understanding of what karma is. Karma is just action. And there's positive and negative action, bad, action. It's cause and effect. And you can consciously put out good action.
Yeah.
You can go through that thought experiment too and say, well, everything is cause and conditions. Everything is conditioned off its something. Like somebody made the material to make this, to get this, to then fill with coffee that was made by somebody else, to then put in this cup, to then have myself enjoy it or not enjoy it. It's just a moment. Action, lots of action was created to put this experience here. And to be able to have enough space between stimulus and response to then, which is where we were headed with this, is saying, well, within that space, what kind of action do I want to put out there? Into the world, into my life, into every moment. If I practice enough paying attention to what my action is and really going down that domino effect, we may think twice before we, yell at that person who cuts us off in traffic. And then all of a sudden you see them as another person creating action. And how your action created action there.
It's funny you mentioned traffic specifically, because I remember when I was a kid, my dad is he gets stressed out in traffic. Pardon the cat food. My dad will get stressed in traffic. It makes him angry. He gets annoyed if someone tries to cut him off. He's like, whatever. And my mom, on the other hand, always, no matter what, when I was a kid, she would, if someone cuts us off, she'd always say, like, you know what, it's very possible that person, by stopping us for 3 seconds so they can get in front of us, saved our life. Because we could have been in the middle of the intersection instead of at the red light 20 minutes from now down the road, and it's possible that they could have. Whatever the circumstances that they're in that led them to maybe not acknowledge what was in my interest for what was in their interest instead, that's them. But it's my responsibility as a member of this community, as a member of my own family, as a member of myself, as my own self, to choose how I'm going to interpret any good or bad thing that might come my way. Because, like I said, it's not good or bad. A tragedy could strike, and you can decide that it's the worst thing that's ever happened to you. And in many ways, in your body, it might feel like that. And that's not untrue, but how you choose to respond to it could be the best thing that's ever happened to you.
Correct. And that's exactly the point of it. It's examining our habitual relationship with what arises in our awareness. That's what mindfulness is. It's learning to bring our attention to the present moment by simply seeing what arises without bias or judgment. That's it. And that's really the instruction right there. And it's, it sounded like I was reading it because that is exactly what I learned. Though word for word, like really examining what are those words. And I say, my students are like, stop saying that sentence, but that's the truth, because our relationship with what is in our awareness, with what arises in occurrences, is how we see the world. And that is trainable. Not the world. The world is not trainable. How we take to the world is.
Yeah.
And it's something that if you train it like a muscle, then all of a sudden you can utilize that muscle, that transformation of mind, anywhere. There are no circumstances where it doesn't work, right? It's like opening your eyes on meditation retreat. Nothing has changed. It's only our relationship with it. I work with pitchers, and I say to them, I'm like, there's no difference between you pitching in practice or you pitching in the 9th inning, 2 strikes of the World Series. The body is still pitching. The difference is your point of view of that moment, your relationship with the pressure, your attachment to whether you need it to happen a certain way. But you're still moving your body in space.
Yeah.
And how you pitch the ball will be a reflection of how precise you are in your practice and other circumstances, i.e. the wind, the rain, all that stuff you cannot control. But the thing you could control up to that point is the action that you put in.
Yeah.
And so if you remember that just simple thing, that you're planting seed, you're creating action all the time. And it doesn't need to be, I need to engage so this will occur. It's just, I need to engage.
Yeah.
And I need to engage in something.
May occur.
Yes.
But, when you're at the bottom of the 9th in the World Series with two strikes, you are, for lack of a better word, you are a slave to a narrative that you've written for yourself about what you will get if you achieve this thing you've decided
or if you don't.
Yeah, and what you'll lose
if you don't.
And so suddenly, because of all of that anxiety or pressure you've put on yourself to actualize the story you've told, you're now not in this moment
right
anymore.
And that's
you're
why
not doing
you
the
have
thing.
That's why I love this Alex Honnold, who's doing all these climbs.
Alex Honnold, yeah.
Right, Honnold.
Yeah.
Because he's a perfect example of the secret sauce, which is you need to expand your area of comfortability.
Mm-hmm.
So just pitching in the 9th inning of the World Series is just pitching.
Yeah.
And it doesn't
holding the wall with no ropes 3 feet off the ground and 1,000 feet off the ground is actually the same thing.
Yeah, and he's done it,
the same
and
movement.
he's done it millions of times. He knows his body. He's been precise in his training. I use the example of what he's doing on when he free solos buildings or
he just did 101 type
right.
thing.
Yeah, when he free solos whatever he's free soloing, as the same analogy as something as simple as driving a car, which is it's incredibly dangerous, and yet we don't think about the danger. We're so comfortable in that boundary, like we've expanded our boundaries so beyond the danger of driving in a car, although it's incredibly dangerous. Like if you really pay attention to how fast your body is moving in space, how precise the vehicle is, made by other humans and robots, that humans made those robots to be able to make
how much trust you're putting into them.
Incredible, magnificent piece of machinery that is moving you through space at 80 plus miles an hour. And the precision of all these other vehicles moving at that speed, if we thought about exactly what that was,
you'd never do it.
We would never do it.
Yeah.
Just
Well,
like
it's
he would
amazing.
never climb that building
Yeah.
if he actually thought about the implications of what it is that he's doing.
I think a lot of that is also like we are conditioned in our it just in society in our day-to-day life we're conditioned to in order to participate you have to allot a certain amount of trust to absolute strangers from all around the world who are creating these cars and keep putting us in all of these very dangerous circumstances that we're in every single day. I mean, we're sitting in a 6-story building in Harlem right now, and we're just trusting that the strangers that built it
Right.
80 years ago,
That we don't know.
yeah, that it's just not going to fall right now. And so if we can secondhand, unconsciously, and almost by default, in order to be in society, give that much trust to everybody else who's allowing us to be safe and comfortable and move in this world, why don't we give that amount of trust to ourselves?
Right.
You know?
Or just go down the very simple thought that people are generally good and they're born good.
And people
that
are
they're
asked to
well-intentioned,
do a task.
and that we have examples all around us, exactly like you just said, straight up driving down the road. Of course there are accidents. Of course people cut people off in traffic. But just like your mom did, we have a choice on how we can perceive it, which will affect our current state of mind. And so whether your mom was right or wrong about the fact that like the car cutting you off saved your life, it's a happier emotion than your dad's.
Yeah.
And so her state of mind was just more at ease.
And because she's more at ease, she's able to create better circumstances for everyone else who's around her.
Correct.
Which is the power that she gets from making that choice that, again, might be just as untrue as the opposite.
And it doesn't matter what's true.
Yeah.
It matters where you put your attention and how you
Yeah.
put your attention. And the analogy, there's so many analogies about this, but a very simple one is imagining like a candle, or imagining boiling water that has something murky in it. Like when the water is boiling and it's heated up, like your dad would be like anxious, this person. If you just stop the water from boiling, what naturally happens is it settles and the sediment falls to the bottom and you can see through clearly. So clarity comes from softening the action. So like the candle, like I was going to say, that heat is energy, right? You light it, but that light is warmth. And that warmth melts the rigidity of the candle to the point where that something you couldn't see through then is something you can see directly through to the bottom. So the examples of this are in nature all around us. And it's exactly the energy that your mom was choosing in that moment, was to say, I have a choice here. And the choice is to just add a little energy of loving kindness, gentleness, friendliness.
Yeah.
Simple.
Well, it's also like,
and then there's more clarity.
Yeah.
That follows from there.
Yeah.
Okay, I now have more space between that stimulus and my response.
Yeah.
The space has now there's the beauty about breath work, or the beauty about any, we know how, we have the studies, the neurological studies of engaging the parasympathetic nervous system tells the brain and tells the mind, it tells it, you are not under attack anymore.
Yeah.
So you can then see things with more clarity.
It's also empowering. Like, to use the traffic thing as an example again, the helplessness that so many people feel when they're stuck in bumper to bumper traffic for an hour or whatever it is, the just feeling of like, I can't stand being here in this moment with myself when I'm trying to be over there.
Bumper to bumper traffic.
I mean, who doesn't?
No, I get it.
But the immediate power that you can take if you get to be the person in the traffic who's letting people merge, you
Totally.
suddenly are the one that is giving everyone else the best moment in this horrible moment that we all kind of agree on, and you take the power back. And all of a sudden, you feel like you are actualizing some kind of change in your environment.
And then you see that car like an hour later, and you pass them on the road, and you're like, "Well, what was the point of that
yeah,
anyway?"
because you didn't get any further than you would have been in the first
You
place.
see them an hour later,
So
and
true.
they're right next to you. You're like, "Oh."
I'm curious to know what you think about this as well, because like I said with the stagnancy thing that comes from your own sadness or your own frustration or anxieties, whatever, it kind of puts you in that stagnant space. And the antidote to that is movement. I often find, and I find it more recently now, especially since I got married, that I experience the same sense of stagnancy from the feeling of happiness that I often do from the feeling of sadness, which is this impulse that I have to not change anything because I'm happy. And because I feel like I'm in this good moment, I don't want to do anything that might better my career, better my personal relationships with other people, better my whatever, my project that I'm working on, at the risk of shaking the sand from the pattern that it's in that I'm content with. And then as soon as I feel that, the happiness starts to diminish because I've stopped moving. But I'm still addicted to the feeling of making sure that I don't, when you're holding like a full cup of coffee and you're trying to walk across the room and you're like, I won't spill a drop of this coffee if I stop walking.
Right.
But I also won't get to the couch.
Mm-hmm.
So I either drink it in the hallway or I let some spill.
Yeah.
And then drink what's left on the couch.
Or maybe you won't.
Or maybe I won't.
Yeah, maybe you won't.
Who knows?
Maybe if you go so slow, you won't. But I think what you're speaking to is it's the subtlety in all this, which is attachment to any type of experience is denying the impermanence of change. Right? That's all it is. It's attachment, clinging to our happiness. I want to hold on to the good and push away the bad. Those two actions are not possible.
Yeah.
And so we're not actually experiencing happiness when we're attempting to hold. The happiness has already drifted away.
Yeah.
And you've then moved into something that is
memory
very different, which is a gripping of something that cannot be gripped.
Yeah.
Right? Going back to Shakespeare, it's like reaching for the dagger that isn't there.
Yeah. Shadow happiness.
Yes. You're like, oh, that happiness, I want it back.
Yeah.
I want to hold it. I want to squeeze it. I want to just love it. I want to put it in its box.
Yeah.
I want to lock and throw away the key.
Well, I guess it's the same in acting. Every time you find yourself in some emotionally intense scene and you feel so many actors, they especially, I imagine you experience it when you're teaching students. When you're starting as an actor, you get to this place where you've lost control, which is the best feeling in the world. It's the catharsis that everyone's looking for.
That's flow state.
When you've lost the control in the scene and now you're in the passenger seat and the scene is driving you. And then because you're in that space, you feel this well of emotion that comes up in some scene and you're on the precipice of it. It's about to come out and you think you have the actor mind where you're like, oh, it's going to happen. Like I'm about to do a great performance. And you go, and the second you hold your breath, it just, you can feel it go away and you're like, oh,
yeah,
I tried to hold it.
That happens in meditation too. And that's just the extent of your training as an actor and as a meditator. It's the same thing. It's that experience when I've had those experiences on retreats or practicing where sense of self fully disappears, which is what I call the flow state.
Yeah.
Where there's no me, my I, it's we, it's everything. There's time, construct of time disappears. and it's riding the wave of impermanence, meaning I'm not holding on to any good, bad. You're just flowing through the messiness of experience and yet being fully aware of it without the me. There's like just awareness itself. But then when the me recognizes that you're there, which is what you describe, all of that just goes away and you go right back into this like denial.
Yeah.
That you, and I have all this control. So I've had moments like that where I have been meditating and I have been riding a moment of awareness, and then I'll like, a voice will pop into my head. It'll be like, "You're doing it." And be like, "Oh no!"
Yeah,
you're like
right back
gone.
into the box. It's the Jack in the Box.
Right.
The he gets bolted out of the box when the lid opens,
Yes.
and he's out in the world. And the second he's like, "Look at me, here's the whole world," then it just shoves you right back in the box.
Correct. And I mean, everybody that has ever loved anything has experienced. A golfer hits that pure shot.
Oh yeah.
And you're like, "Well, that's why I golf." Or when you have that moment as an actor, that's why you keep coming back.
Yeah.
You're chasing that flow.
Yeah.
But that isn't random. That's what I have been, like, that's my thesis. And what I teach is that I'm curiously going on this journey with my students as well as myself as a professional actor and saying, what makes flow? How does that arise? And there are all these people out there who will say, I'll teach you how to enter the flow state. I'll teach you what flow is. Do this to enter flow. I'm more like, well, what is it? What are the conditions that need to be created to enter flow?
Is it because you had your morning smoothie, or is it
Right.
because you skipped lunch, or because you went to the gym, or
Right.
is it because
I'm incredibly curious about this, and I ask professional athletes whenever I get a chance to about this all the time. And what I've discovered through my investigation, at least up until this point, is that you can't want to get there to get there.
Yeah.
The path of getting there needs to be the purpose. You can train walking the path, but you can't train getting to the end. If you value the action as the most exciting thing, you will end up in flow.
Yeah.
As opposed to chasing flow, which is once you experience it, you want it so bad that you're like, well, what did I do? What did I do? Right. Morning smoothie. I did this. I did that. And athletes are just way more intense about it than actors are. Actors think it's emotion. I need to feel it.
Yeah.
That's what puts me there. It's not. It's a letting go of your expectation of what this moment needs to be. And it's really putting your attention on what are these circumstances that I'm living in.
Yeah.
I need to fully believe that and then step into the scene and not know what the fuck's about to happen.
And just, what do I have to do?
Right.
Like
athletes, it's almost easier to train them because you can break them of that mindset. Because, I was talking to these hockey players, and I'm just fascinated with it because I've seen every now and then on TV, these hockey players have these superstitions, like last to leave the ice. I saw this one thing where these two hockey players had the same superstition, was last to leave the ice. They both did.
Both like fighting each other.
And they both had one skate on the ice, and the Zamboni's just going around. They're both just waiting. Like, the crowd is gone. Their teammates have probably left the building, and they're both still standing on the ice staring at each other.
Yeah.
Eventually one gives up, but I asked them, I was like, what's the difference? Or is there a difference between superstition and routine? And because they seem like the same, but superstition is a near enemy of routine, meaning it disguises itself as a routine. And what I've discovered through talking to them is the superstition probably started as a routine. And then all of a sudden the mind starts attaching to, I need to do this, otherwise this won't occur.
What's
As
the
opposed
control?
to, I do this thing because it grounds me.
Yeah.
And so if I don't do it, that's okay. But it actually creates better conditions for me to succeed. Like I have some students that are like, I can't meditate at night. It makes me go to sleep. I'm like, well, then don't meditate at night. Like,
Yeah. Or go to sleep.
or yeah, go to sleep. That's okay too. But like create the conditions for yourself to have a better chance to succeed in the thing that you're attempting to do, by recognizing like, oh, maybe it's better for me. I'm more alert if I don't eat before I practice. But that's not a guarantee. It's just routine. It's good routine
Well,
for
it's
me.
science. It's your own, like you were saying with your investigation of the flow state in general. It's like this is your research. You know, practice being aware of all the things that you do before you execute the task that you've been preparing to execute, and then do something different, change the variables, and see
Explore.
what works. You know, I don't eat a hamburger every night because it makes me feel bad in the morning.
Yeah.
You know, it's a low stakes issue.
But that doesn't
you know?
mean hamburgers are bad for you or anyone. That's the
Yeah.
thing, is when we start to say hamburgers are bad for you at night because X, Y, and Z. It's like, well, no, they're just not good for you currently in this moment. There's ...
Yeah.
right? There's like, it's these finite and like final decisions that we make for ourselves that don't have any variables to them. We're not like going back and saying, I wonder if that rule that I made for myself still is true today.
Yeah.
You know, like, is there any room to be like, let me reopen that case and see.
Well, and that's the same for just people's personalities as a whole. You know, I have a friend of mine who's also he's a life coach. And one of the things that he talks about all the time is this idea that, like, if I say something like, "Oh, you know, I'm just a person who needs like to work in a cafe because I can't," and this is true for me. I generally, you know, I am a person who is more efficient when I'm working in a cafe than in my own office, because I don't own anything in the cafe with which I can distract myself. When I'm sitting at my office, I have a Rubik's Cube and I have all this other doodads that I can distract myself with. But at the cafe, other people are working. I work out better at the gym than I do at home because there's other people around also working. It's the only thing anyone's doing. So it's easier for me to focus on that thing. And so if I say something like that, he'll always say, "Okay, when you said that, did you acknowledge that you said, I am a person who..." And I was like, "Yeah, I mean, that's true that I said it." He's like, "Yeah, but just by you saying that, you are, I don't know if this is a word, but you are concretizing this idea about yourself, this narrative that you're creating for yourself that is now becoming your definition of Mickey. You are a person who does this. It might have been true the last time you did it. Try it again, or try something else. You are not any one kind of person that is going to progress unchanged throughout any span of time.
Impermanence, it always changes.
Yeah. I am the sum of my actions and my parts and my experiences, sure. But I am also the decisions that I'm making now. And if I only rely on the definitions that I've created about me today from my evidence from yesterday, then I am allowing myself, again, to let go of the steering wheel and say, hey, it's not my fault that I'm this way, because I was this way then, so I assume that I will be now. Mm-hmm. And then all of a sudden, you're not responsible for any of the things that you do.
Yeah, I mean, none of it's written, so how are we supposed to know? Like, it's never happened before, so why is it not possible?
Yeah.
That's just the straight up thing. It's like, it hasn't happened. That's why we can't talk about it. Because that thing wasn't created yet, because you didn't create it. That job didn't exist because you didn't decide you were doing it.
Yeah.
That acting job didn't come to you because we're not there yet. You didn't audition for it yet. And you didn't even know you had that audition 10 years from now.
Yeah.
Like, that's just not possible to know. And so it's not about knowing, like, as you were talking, the images that were popping up in my mind were like the difference between having a map and a compass. It's like, we're so used to looking at a map where we're like, I know where I'm going and I'm going to go this way, that way, this way. But there's like all these, it's kind of like very narrow. Whereas a compass just gives you a direction. You don't know where you're going, but you can calibrate the compass and you just need to build the ship to sail that way. Focus on building a proper ship, the best ship that you possibly can, because this is your only vehicle that you will ever have. You can change your house, you can change your car, you can change your clothes, you can change your name, but this body, this vehicle is your only one. That's all you get. So this is your ship through life. What do you want? What ship do you want to move through life? How strong, how vital? Sure, there are aspects of it that will decompose naturally because these ships are not made to last. They have an expiration date. We don't know when they're going to break down, but we can send this ship, I'm mixing metaphors, but to the shop,
yeah,
and maintain it. And we can build it as strong for any treacherous journey that's out there that we don't know. But let's say, all right, let's take this ship north and see what's there.
Yeah.
The undiscovered country, right? To quote Shakespeare again. That's what scares us, is the undiscovered country from whose bourne no traveler returns. Straight up. That's what he says. Puzzles the will. Thus makes cowards of us. Conscience does make cowards of us all. I totally butchered that, but that's to be or not to be.
Yeah.
Conscience makes cowards of us all. That's what he's saying there. So if we know this, if these things are true, then what do we do right now? Build a ship. Build the ship you want.
Yeah, or at least the ship that you can stand
Right
having.
now, build the ship you want,
Yeah.
and then take a look in the mirror and be like, yeah, that's the ship that I wanted. I built it, and let me build it again.
Yeah.
Let me keep building it, and let me keep
Well, it's always
directing
also like,
it in this direction.
Yeah.
And then assess. Okay, I took a step this way. I use the analogy a lot. Because I use this idea of like holding a mirror up to ourselves. That's what the practice of mindfulness does, really. It's like it takes away the blaming or everything of the world, victim of circumstance. It really just holds a mirror up to your own nature and the society we live in right now, and also the pursuit of being somebody that's in the public eye, especially with social media and everything these days. It's as if you're in a house of mirrors. And what is a house of mirrors? It's just a massive distortion where if you really just look at it for what the illusion is, it's an endless reflection of yourself with no way out. The only way out of a house of mirrors is to look down and see that your feet are there. You're right there. Your body isn't like in trouble.
Yeah. And then just take one
You
step
take
in each direction.
one step. Oh, bang. You're like,
Yeah.
no, not that way. That doesn't mean anything about you. It just means that that's not the way to go. So stop. Have the action to say, let me go that way. In intention, put my attention over here. Let me try that. Bang. You're like, nope, that's not the way to go. Humor is gentleness. It's a point of view of softness. It gives you the opportunity to have more clarity and say, all right, let me acknowledge there's a lot of distortion around me right now, a lot of noise, a lot of people telling me what I should and shouldn't do, the world reflecting back to you. Like Instagram, all this stuff is just a reflection of self constantly in a house of mirrors, because how you feel about whatever people are saying about you or wanting to say about you, that's just a reflection of you, not about them. It's not their action is just put out there. It's not their fault if they tell you you're amazing, or it's not their fault if they tell you you suck or you're ugly or you're bad. How you take that information, it's a gift. It's an opportunity for you to recognize who you are a little bit more, how you function. So then you could have more agency on where do I want to calibrate my compass. Okay, today I want to work on my ship this way. And then eventually you'll have a ship that can move in a certain way, like the incredible bodybuilders that like track their macros and like work on the precision of a muscle to get it to look a certain way and lose a certain amount of body. Like, how do we not look at people like that and say anything is possible? Because anything quite literally is, if you just have the intention to put your attention on that and value it.
I like the idea that you're getting at about like all of this practice is, it's not necessarily going to make the world bend to you, but it's going to give you agency to decide how you navigate an unbending world. And correct me if I'm wrong, but what it sounds like ultimately, in layman's terms, is that all mindfulness practice, all meditation practice, all physical health and well-being, and all relationship health and well-being, all the things that you do with this type of intention is really just an effort to mitigate regret down at the end of the road. If you relinquish agency now, you're maximizing your opportunity for regrets later when the end comes. If you take agency now, then you don't have to worry about
when death comes. Is
death,
that what you mean? No, because death.
Well, when death, like at the end of your life, when you don't have any more days to make the changes you never thought about making, and all you can do is look back at the story that you wrote unintentionally, stumbling through, and you look at every turn that you made without awareness, and you say, I wish I had known I wouldn't have gone that way had I had the ability to choose then, but now I can't. All this work really does at the end of the day is give you, I keep using the same analogy, but it gives you the steering wheel now. And you could say, like I should have started when I was 20. Sure, I'm 31 now. Maybe I wished that I started when I was 25 to do more of the things I wanted to do. But if I don't start now, I'm going to be 32 next year, and I'm going to be wishing that I'd started when I was 31. But I'm 31 now. So just start now, and I will mitigate all of the future opportunity for unconsciously making the wrong decisions that I wouldn't have made had I been present at the board meeting with myself and the decisions I can make. I
think I don't know how to fully answer. I love what you're saying. A lot of thoughts are running through my head, but
grab one.
Yeah, I think ultimately everybody comes to this realization eventually in that moment where they recognize impermanence, they're going to die, and that there is no next breath. And I believe there has to be a moment of awareness, awareness surrender, There's a giving it because you know you can't stop it.
Hmm.
So all I'm attempting to do is kind of practice that now,
Yeah.
which is what I think what you're saying.
You're not in the World Series yet, but you're
No,
pitching.
I'm saying like sometimes that's the contemplation of impermanence is imagine if what would it genuinely feel like? And I think this is why I love acting because this is what we're doing.
Yeah.
Imagine
What
the
would it genuinely feel like?
circumstances. What would it genuinely feel like if, God forbid, my kids died right now, my house burned down, I lost all my possessions, right? I think about those fires in LA. God forbid, like say these families with ICE and everything that's going on right now and just everything, just imagining, the ICE agents or imagining putting myself in the shoes of the detainees, just like everything. Imagine if these circumstances that you couldn't control just stepped at your doorstep right now and all of it was taken away and you were just left with no money in your bank account, nothing, not even the clothes on your back.
Yeah, no family.
No family. None of the, you realize you couldn't control anything. Would you be okay?
Yeah.
It's an incredibly tough contemplation, but one worth having.
Yeah.
Because just sitting down and really believing that and attempting to believe that, I think is a worthy thought experiment.
Yeah.
Because it really shows you how comfortable you are with change.
Yeah.
I had a moment where I live in a place where I have these big trees near me. I think it was on Halloween or something near Halloween. So much wind in New Jersey at the time. And my son was at like our neighbor's house. He was like, "Dad, I want my iPad. Can you go back home and get it?" I was like, "No, Dad, I don't want to get your iPad." But he's like, "Come on, please." I was like, "All right." So I was like, "I'll take a walk. I'll walk home." And I was walking home and I heard this huge, like the wind was like, whoo, whoo. And I looked up, I could see these huge trees, these branches just like really swaying back and forth. And I had a moment of contemplation. I was like, one of those can break right now.
Totally.
Like genuinely right now, one of those things can fall on me and this could be the end. And I stopped and I was like, oh, impermanence. I was like, let me just contemplate this for a second. Would I be okay with that? Full well knowing my kids just asked me to go get their iPad. There I am outside. I don't feel like I'm doing something irresponsible by being outside, right? You could be like, oh, he shouldn't have been walking outside. No, it's like, that was the choice I made. And in that particular moment, I felt okay with death. And I actually felt comfortable. But then I thought, well, what if I survive it? And I'm crippled and paralyzed. And I have to live the rest of my life that way.
Yeah.
I was not okay with that. And then I realized, okay, well, that's the extent of your training with this. And that's okay.
Huh.
And it was just information.
Yeah.
But that creates a lot of benefit, just spending that opportunity to recognize and stop. That thought doesn't arise in my mind, or it does, but it just trickles away. I don't think about that. What mindfulness teaches you to do is it arises and you see it in that moment that it happens. And instead of pushing it away, you ride it.
Let it pass through.
You just ride, you just watch it.
Yeah.
You're with it without judgment or bias. Mindfulness is learning to bring our attention to the present moment by seeing what arises without bias or judgment. Straight up. That doesn't happen without practicing it.
Yeah.
We want to will it to happen, but you go to the gym so you can be stronger. You practice mindfulness on or off the cushion, so it becomes more of your regular way of life.
Yeah, easier access. The neural pathways. You're making it something that is, if I, it's within my reach all the time.
It just becomes part of you. It's not even something that you have to go out there and grab. You've literally transformed your point of view. Like you've pulled the curtain and you've seen the Wizard of Oz. You can't unsee it. You don't have to then go pull the curtain again. You've pulled it. You have seen it. That's why these like stories of the Buddha is like the Buddha would just say one thing and some of his disciples would be enlightened like that. They don't even need to go meditate or anything because when they saw it, when they heard and they really dropped in, it was like everything shifted. And that's the real deep and like the real contemplation of this is that right now is your and my ability and all of our ability to become enlightened.
Do you not feel, though, that there are so many moments in my life where I have experienced some overwhelming emotion or seen some just incredible majesty that is being alive at all on this planet, whatever it is, or it's just a conversation with a stranger at a bus stop that just it made me suddenly feel like all of this is significant. And I feel like it's changed me forever. And then tomorrow I wake up and I feel exactly the way I did before that happened.
Yeah, you're like, okay.
Yeah. And it's this constant, like, I say this because of the story you said about the Buddha and their followers becoming this way. And to me, it's like, that sounds great. Is it possible? I don't know, because I feel like that has happened to me to some smaller degree countless times. And the second I get an Instagram notification about something else, or something pops on the news, or I get into a fight with my wife or something, that enlightened moment is gone, and I'm starting, maybe not from the same ground level I was before, but if not, then just a little bit above
right,
it,
because what conditions have you changed through that enlightened moment of insight?
I'm grasping at the feeling again. I'm prioritizing the feeling over the change that I affect.
Well, no, like you didn't delete Instagram in that moment of insight. You didn't change your clothes. You didn't, renunciate, which is the word. You didn't give up everything.
Yeah,
like
become an ascetic.
Like the monks who have one possession.
Yeah.
And not even that. It's literally like just the cup that they drink out of. It's not theirs.
It's just the one they use because
it's just what that body uses to stay alive. Right?
Yeah. No, you're right.
It's like we have these moments of insight all the time as human beings. And then we're like, oh, great.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Like we have moments of awe every single day. Impermanence is in front of us at all times. The leaves changing, everything. And we're like, oh, wonderful. Great. Bye-bye. I'm back to these conditions that make me feel comfortable. Yeah. And so it's like we have to value something differently. And that's why I feel like the compass is so important. Really connecting to the compass. And so people who are really devout in religion, who are very spiritual, who aren't dogmatic, they're just very spiritual. They have a very clear compass, which then changes their point of view.
Yeah.
Where they understand the purpose of why they do what they do. Which is, that wonderful book, Man's Search for Meaning. What does he say? He says, like, suffering gives you meaning. And you hear that, you're like, what the heck does that mean? But it's true. It's like, get to the end of your life, you look back and you say, all of it was worth it. All that struggle to be an artist was worth it for me. It taught me so much about what it means to be alive. It sucked at the time and I didn't want it, but so does exercising, right? You know, I use this a lot with my athletes. It's like, we value resistance training in exercise because we know resistance makes us stronger. But we do not value resistance training with our mind.
Yeah.
We don't. There's resistance with our career. There's resistance in our relationships. There's resistance
In our
heart,
journey,
in our spirit, and all that. We don't value that resistance. We don't look at that and say, wow, that's making me stronger if I just keep being resisted and still showing up to that resistance.
Yeah.
We see that example when we go to the gym, and yet we don't do it outside. We value it here, but we don't value it here.
Well, it's like why would I go down the rapids when I can go down a lazy river? And it's like, well, because you go down the rapids, you're going to see a heck of a lot more, cover a lot more ground in a much shorter time. Because though it's not comfortable
It'll
or
be
easy,
scary and fun and a dopamine rush. And you're like, I survived. I can do it again.
And you'll go, 10 miles down the river, whereas the person on the lazy river has gone 1 mile and you're 10, and they've not seen nearly as much of the ground that you've covered. And you get out the same amount of time, and you're like, yeah, not all of it was great. I hit my head. It started to rain. It was awful. But look where I got to, and look how exhilarating.
Or you're going down that, and all you're thinking about is regretting going down that, and you're not enjoying what it could be.
Yeah.
And so it could be anything. But that's why you practice. So when you're experiencing those moments, you're experiencing them. You're not asleep. You're noticing it. You're allowing the scary, the exciting, all to come in fully, and then not hold on to it. You're watching it pass, like clouds in the sky. And look, I don't want to be sitting here on a pedestal being like, oh, I'm this Buddhist monk that's able to do this. I can do it more consistently than I did before I started practicing, but I am on the journey. I mean, I am still getting irritable. I still want my career to work out. I still want my kids to, not wake me up in the morning and not like beg me for food. I still am grasping, but that's the human aspect. Now I at least have a little voice or a perspective, a compass in the back of my mind reminding me of this. And I get reminded more and more the more and more I practice.
Yeah. Well, and it's this feeling of, I can be in this moment where I'm aggravated with my partner because I'm stressed about something and I don't know my lines for an audition, and she's wants me to help her make breakfast, and I'm trying to get out the door, and I don't want to, and I'm in this moment, and sure, that moment might be the same whether I've done this training or not. But now, when I'm in that moment, there's this little bit of me that's standing in the corner of the room watching that moment and saying, what a beautiful experience of being human that this aggravation you're feeling is. And then you leave the room, and instead of taking all of that with you, you walk out the room and you say, back to whatever
this
now.
Is.
And I'm just going to move and let it come out.
How beautiful is it to be aggravated and then recognize that like you're not actually heated anymore, and then you can just stop and laugh because you recognize like, oh, I was just choosing to continue this fight, and now I can be in this space. Yeah. Whereas imagine if we're actors and that's the scene, how difficult it is to play that moment. You're like, how can I go from like pure rage to pure love and joy and laughter? How is that possible to do?
Yeah, like I do it every day.
We do it in life all the time because it's all of a sudden you have an awareness that you're in a new spot.
Well, it's
and then you allow that to be true
yeah.
and authentic. And really, at the end of the day, what is that? It's generosity. Because you're not pretending to be someone that you're not in that moment.
Yeah.
In fact, you're being generous, which is what? You're allowing yourself to be seen, which is doing what? Making your partner feel seen. Because now they know who they're in the room with.
Yeah. They're not in the room with the person still pretending to be right, even though they know that they're wrong.
So when you are able to open up and be seen, you are being generous to them because now they see you and they can then feel safe to be seen.
Yeah.
Yes, of course, we can be angry, and that's part of being seen. We're frustrated. I don't want to, I don't want this right now.
Yeah.
And then you can be like, wow.
This is not ideal for me.
No.
And I've decided that you need to acquiesce to what's ideal for me.
My preference is that it goes this way. And you're like,
and
well, my preference is this. And you're like, oh.
Well, I spent a long time. I spent such a long time especially when I was in college, fighting this idea of like, kind of exactly this, where it's this pendulum that swings, in large swaths of your life as well as day-to-day moments where you swing from taking yourself so seriously, which is totally fine to do, to then suddenly realizing that nothing is really that important at all. And it happens all the time. And some people in my life, I know
that
they take their pendulum, it swings to the so serious, and then it gets stuck there for a long time.
Oh, yeah.
Years. And mine, it happened to get stuck in this, on the other side, where I didn't think anything that I wanted was important enough to get in the way of something that someone else wanted that I could give them. So I always assumed for such a long time, like, who am I to assert my preference over your preference, unless I have to acknowledge to myself that I believe I matter more than you in this moment. And I got stuck in this place where I would acquiesce.
That's not true either.
Well, exactly. I was stuck in this, like, in the only way I can prove to myself that I'm not a selfish person, a person that prioritizes myself over others. The only way I can prove that to myself is to acquiesce anything that I want for whatever someone else wants. And I spent a long time just letting people have what they wanted, even when it was not good for me. And it took me a long time to rewrite the definition of what a good person was, to allow myself to release the pin holding that pendulum again and let that swing more freely and prioritize and take seriously the things that I want in my life. Because what is in many ways and many times best for me in a moment is often best for everyone in my life that I love also. And me letting everyone have what they want is not good for the people that I'm responsible for.
It goes back to what I was saying in the sadhana. May I attain enlightenment for the benefit of beings. What you were doing was saying, for the benefit of beings at my own expense.
Yeah.
There are two factors in that sentence. May I attain it all, pure bliss, nirvana, the highest form of experience for you as well.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden you're included in the sentence. May I be the richest person on earth for the benefit of beings. May I go to the gym and get as strong as I can for the benefit of beings, right? It gives you, it doesn't stop self building your ship or saying my ship needs some paint.
Yeah.
But it needs some paint so then it can sail and bring back goods.
Yeah, well, it's like,
right, for the community.
Yeah.
So it's like there's that,
because there's one less ship in the fleet if I let mine sink. It's that you'll read, people will read in the paper, this noble community member gave the last of their food during the storm when everything was closed and shut down and they couldn't go in. They gave the last of their food to this other person, and because of that, this person sacrificed themselves in some way, whatever. So this other person can do that. And it's like, oh wow, that's so amazing. He sacrificed himself so that this other person can serve. And it's like, all right, that's great in that moment. That person had the selflessness to prioritize this other person over themselves in that moment. And for that moment, that was wonderful. But there will be no more moments wherein that person can do that again because they did not prioritize themselves at all. And there is a point where you say, like, the only way I can feed you is if I feed me.
I mean, we say it right there on the airplanes, right? Like with the
mask.
Right?
Totally.
I mean, put on your mask first so you can help your child.
Yeah.
Right? Like, go out there and make money and work and do your best so you can support your family. May you attain enlightenment for the benefit of beings.
Yeah.
Like, there is and it's not to say in that scenario of that noble person, but that's where it ended for them. They made that choice in that moment, that the conditions that led up to that person to be able to do that. And then it ended there for them.
Yeah.
It might not have ended there for them. You think about like the thought experiment or about those firefighters or policemen on 9/11, right? Like, full well knowing there's a chance this is it for you. You still run up those stairs to try and help people. Are those people idiots for doing that, or are they brave and noble? I don't know. Yeah. I don't know the answer to that, but I do know that having a sense of purpose that drives your act, that purpose, whatever it may be, that calibrates your compass, then creates meaning in your action, whatever it may be. And that's, to me, interesting, noble, also really something that needs to be examined so people aren't distorted, that they think they're doing the right thing, but they're really in a house of mirrors.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important to see your feet on the ground in the house of mirrors for what it really is, so then you can create that space, so then you can choose to move forward skillfully. You know what? That's not going to be my beneficial of all beings in this moment.
Yeah.
That's actually, that action would be more about self-serving for me, so I could be written up in the paper as this noble human being for ego. And so I break it down to really simple terms. Was that act of goodness unconditional, or were there conditions attached?
Yeah.
And you could always ask yourself that question. Am I doing this conditionally or unconditionally?
Well, let's pause for a second. I need to put
What time is it?
New battery in your thing. 7:34.
Oh,
I think
shit.
we need to
Yeah.
You want to just wrap it up?
Yeah, I have to go.
Yeah,
I'm gonna be
totally.
late.
You do have to go. All right. Let's we have been rolling for almost 2 hours and we didn't talk about acting. Well,
Yes,
we didn't talk about
we talked
your
about
career
acting the
at all.
whole time.
That's also
You'll have
very
me
true.
back.
Yeah, you got to come back now. We have a lot more to talk about. Rafi, tell anyone where they can find you.
You'll find me on this podcast.
Heck yeah.
You can follow me at Rafi Silver Official on Instagram, or peak.mind.performance on Instagram as well.
All will be in the show notes underneath.
It'll be in the notes
underneath the thing.
And please reach out. I'm not
unattainable.
Not unattainable.
Yeah, dude. Thank you so much, man.
man.
This was great.
I forgot we were recording.
I know, dude. Me too. The only thing that kept reminding me was the flashing.
I was like, oh my god, I gotta
camera.
go.
Yeah, totally. All right.
All right.
See you guys.
See ya.